Howdy folks, welcome back to the Finops for Finance YouTube channel. Again, another iteration on video. Last time I had slides behind me and then they appeared in the main text. So kind of messing around with it, and hopefully this is a wee bit better and it'll make a small bit more sense and be a bit slicker. Iterative improvement, just like Finops. We'll get there in the end. Today I'm going to talk about the cloud. So we can't have FinOps without having the cloud. So what I'm going to cover today is, my screen will work, is a brief history of the cloud. Where did it come from? When did the various players within it start? And what's the current position of it now? Then I'm going to go a really high level view of what the cloud actually is. And then last but not least, the different types of cloud, the different deployments. And I'm going to also link to some useful resources in the notes where you can learn a bit more from people who are a lot more polished and eloquent than myself. Eloquent, I think that's the word. Okay, brief history of the cloud. All the way back in 2006, a little known firm called AWS started in the cloud computing game. The concept of cloud computing predates them, but they're the ones that kind of commercially got the public cloud thing up and running. They were followed by 4 years later by Azure, 2 years later by Google GCP. Then you have Oracle and more recently Alibaba Cloud. This isn't a complete list. There's other providers as well. IBM and a few more have clouds, but these are the big rock, so to speak. For the purpose of my deeper dive videos on user interface and stuff like that, I'm going to just be covering the three largest providers, and the reason for that is this. AWS, Azure, and GCP, they command about 66% of the market currently. So what I'm going to do is when I look at the UI stuff, or UI's user interface, I'm going to look at AWS first, then Azure, then GCP. So follow the money, as all you folk with a finance background will know all too well. So then what is the cloud? So the cloud have a really good marketing department because effectively it's a box in a data center, but cloud sounds a lot more cool. But what it is technology that allows you to access these computer resources, so these boxes in a data center over the internet. So as long as you have an internet connection, you can access the cloud. Some of the basic concepts behind it, and as I mentioned at the start, I'm only going to kind of breeze over these. People with a lot more knowledge will be able to go deeper on it, but there's a remote storage aspect of it. So rather than having a server that stores your data locally in your own building, you have this server that sits in a data center somewhere else, and you just access those files over the internet. Second is on-demand access. So you can just access it as you need it from any device. So whether it's your mobile device, your laptop, or if you're in the office, these days who is, and you're hooked up to the local network there, it allows you to access the same data no matter where you are. This is probably one of the biggest benefits of the cloud is the scalability. So if you've got a company that's doing a certain level of business and all of a sudden your latest product completely takes off and your internet is inundated with requests and your systems need to churn and do more, cloud, with just a few clicks of a button, you can massively scale up or scale down your environment. So historically, if you needed to scale up or scale down, you'd have to buy a server, which would get shipped, take 3 to 4 months, even longer after the pandemic demand bottlenecks, to get shipped across. Then it arrives in the data center. Someone has to what they call rack and stack it, which is where they kind of connect it up to your network and get it up and running. Whereas now, a couple of clicks of a button and you've scaled up. Or equally important, you've scaled down. So if you have a Black Friday sale, I'm recording this in November, so that's going to be a thing quite shortly. You can scale up for your Black Friday event so that your website is maintained and reliable, and you can scale back down once that glut of traffic has gone down. So that's one of the real core concepts of cloud. there's also the cost efficiencies associated with it. And this is probably most where FinOps kind of plays into, because it's a pay-as-you-go model. So you only pay for what you provision or what you get. Um, and where FinOps comes in this space is that you're trying to kind of make sure that you're getting the maximum return on that investment. So you're provisioning these resources. You want to make sure they're not too big, not too small, in the right location, and you're running the right types of machines. So a bit more there, but it's a pay-as-you-go model from a high level. And then there's the security and reliability piece. So there's called the shared responsibility model. So that's where the cloud provider is responsible for the security of the cloud, and the customer or your company is responsible for security within the cloud. So what goes on inside in that data center. There's a really good analogy about the cloud being like a locked cast iron box, and it's the cloud provider's responsibility to maintain the integrity of that box, and you're given a key and a lock, and that's your responsibility of opening it up and putting what you want in it. That's the way it kind of stuck with me when I kind of learned about it. Like I say, I'll link to some LinkedIn learnings if you've got access to that, and also I'll link to the Cloudcast Basics. These guys' podcast that does a really good overview of the basic concepts of the cloud, and they'll explain it much better than I could. And then there's different types of cloud services that you'll hear about. So you'll hear IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. What in the name of God is this? So IaaS is infrastructure as a service. So this is, when you think of the cloud, this is probably the main stuff you think about. So you might hear about compute and storage and networking. That is the infrastructure of that your applications run on. So that's infrastructure as a service. PaaS is platform as a service. So this is where the cloud provider, they look after all the stuff under the hood, and you just run the service. You don't have to worry about what goes on underneath. You're just using what's called a managed service. So some examples of that might be RDS, which is relational database services, OpenSearch or Elasticache on Amazon, or some Amazon examples of that PaaS, that platform as a service. And then finally, you've got SaaS, which is software as a service. So these are applications that are delivered over the internet, like Salesforce, for example, would be one. So you kind of log into the website and you get into your Salesforce portal, as an example. So that is some basic concepts of the cloud. Types of cloud. So when you start hearing about cloud, you'll start hearing different terms. One will be the public cloud. So the public cloud, as we mentioned at the start, like the cloud is a box. So public cloud is someone else's box. So it's their data center, their servers that are running in their location that they maintain. You'll hear terms like hyperscaler, CSP. These effectively, when people are mentioning these, they're talking about the likes of AWS, Azure, and GCP. So they're people who have a lot of these data centers and servers around the place. So that is the public cloud. Then you have the private cloud, which is your own box, your own server sitting in your own data center. So here you'll have, so it might be a building that you own and you own the servers in it, or you might have what's called a co-location agreement, where you buy the servers and a provider will run this data center for you. You just get it delivered there, and they pay. So you pay for the box that goes in there, and they pay for the cooling and the energy to run that box and the networking. So all that sits within private cloud. So that's your own box. And the reason people might have that is for security reasons, or for sensitivity reasons, or data governance around government requirements. So that's why you might have a private cloud, not have everything public cloud. Would be one use case for that. Then you have hybrid cloud, where you've got both types of boxes. So you've got some of your applications or your workloads running in a public cloud. So that's one of your big hyperscaler providers. And you have some data that lives in your own box. So that's the hybrid cloud model. then you'd hear of multi-cloud. So this is the next step again, where might have private cloud, and then you might have more than one public cloud. So you could have, and that could happen for a number of reasons. Maybe some of the public cloud providers might provide a service better than some of the others, and the developer or the dev team would want to use that service for that cloud. Or maybe it's just a case that you've acquired another company and they might have their applications or their workloads running on a cloud that's not your primary cloud. So you have to kind of merge environments. So that's multi-cloud. And that's kind of it really for today. So that's an overview of the cloud. Like I say, there's people a lot smarter than me that go into a lot more detail on it, and I'll link to that in the notes. Any questions, comments, just leave them below, and like and subscribe, and tell a friend. Like if you've got a fellow finance professional, accountant, student who's looking to get into this space, just pass on the channel. I'm happy to take as many as will have me. And yeah, take care. Chat to you soon. And I will try and stop this thing now as well. And